All right, and we are back. Welcome back, everyone, to the 10th episode of the Canucks Chronicles Chroncast. As always, or mostly, my name is Ryan, and I'm joined by Alex and producer Zach. So let's just get right down to the Canucks here. Obviously, at the time of recording, they've yet to play a game against the Edmonton Oilers, but they have just recently advanced in a 1-0, kind of, depending on who you ask, thriller, boring game, whatever, against Nashville. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about just a series recap and how that'll play into the next series. So, Alex?
Yeah, before we say anything else, glory to Latvia.
Glory to
What a
Latvia.
performance from Silovs under pressure there in the big games. Speaking to the last game of the series being either boring or a thriller, depending on who you're watching with, I can definitely see how it would have bored the neutral fans. But speaking from experience, being at the watch party at Rogers Arena for that got intense in there. You could just feel the pressure. Zach can probably agree with me here. He was with me, but that was one of the most emotional games I've ever watched as a Canucks fan. I don't know how else to describe it. Zach, anything from you?
Arturs Silovs is the greatest goalie of all time. Rumor has it he practiced his goaltending ability by saving flaming pucks in the middle of nowhere in Latvia.
Yeah, so there's probably something there in there as well. So yeah, I mean, that series against Nashville, I felt like the games were all obviously they were super close. Nashville didn't win a single game by more than 2 goals. Just a lot of defensive battles between both teams. I think at first it was a little bit tougher to crack the Preds. Having that whole series, it was tough to crack them because they were blocking every shot up until the end. I think the Canucks were overall the better team in almost every game. It just came down to a matter of how many shots they could actually get on target when they were on offense. And I'm expecting that to be a pretty stark contrast from this series against one of the better defensive teams in the league that didn't really have much offense going forward. Again, only scoring more than 3 goals, one time?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of what the opposite of what the games against Edmonton are going to look like, because obviously Edmonton's far and away strength is their offense and their power play. So it'll be interesting to see how the Canucks can adapt from going from a low-scoring series to a predictably high-scoring series.
Yeah, definitely not the prettiest series we just came out of. I think, as you were saying, Nashville was doing a really good job at suffocating the Canucks offense. The number of block shots we were getting was just ridiculous in some of these games. But I don't know about you guys, even though it wasn't as pretty as it could have been, I am feeling fairly confident about the Edmonton series. I thought we handled the adversity pretty well. We were always getting those chances and we looked like we were still driving. And the other thing, obviously, is we touched on this earlier briefly, but the goalie situation. Losing Thatcher Demko not only hurts you in net because he's one of the elite goalies in the league, but the mental shock of losing a guy like that can be devastating to a team. And we seem to just ride the wave really well, even after then losing Casey DeSmith. And Arturs Silovs especially just really stepped up to the task and did just such an incredible job after being given a really tough set of circumstances to deal with here.
Yeah, and I think that series, it was really, how do I put this? It was a really tough series for Silovs to go in because with the amount of error that Nashville made, it left him with almost no room for error. And it was incredibly impressive, especially in that last game, to see how he put up a 28 save shutout or a 29 save shutout. I don't know. Whatever it was, put up a shutout in the game to close out the series, avoid a Game 7 in one of the toughest barns in the league as a 21-year-old rookie. Just incredibly, incredibly impressive for him to show that level of composure.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see the series against Edmonton, because I do think more goals are going to be scored both ways. I know Edmonton's offense is stronger and their defense is weaker. And it'll be interesting to see how Silovs handles, going into Edmonton, playing McDavid, playing Draisaitl. That is if they don't go back to DeSmith. So what do you guys think that will look like until Demko can come back?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in Silovs right now, just with how calm he seems under pressure and everything. You could see how little he was reacting to anything that happened on either end of the ice and just how locked in he is to these games. hoping long term that maybe he can be our backup next year. Like, would definitely save us some money versus having to re-sign to Smith or sign someone else. But I'm really looking forward to watching him play and watching the rest of the team. Also, just want to talk about one more thing from Game 6. I'm really glad that it was Pius Suter who ended up getting the game winner after all the missed chances he had earlier in the game. Wouldn't necessarily blame him for a lot of those. Saros had an incredible game in the Nashville net too. He's one of the best goalies in the league, and he really showed it. But I'm really glad he managed to get that one and finally break through and get something going.
Yeah, and I mean, it did feel kind of inevitable. Like throughout that game, it felt like all of the good chances until that last minute were Vancouver's, not Nashville. So it felt like that 1-0 goal was inevitable. I'm not lucky. I'm happy it was Pius Suter. Because you could see him like shattering sticks, like he wanted it and he was getting his opportunities. And he did really well on that line with Pettersson and Besser. That wasn't a role that I would have predicted him to end up in at any point this season. But he played it damn well and he had a pretty good game. Probably had a couple of expected goals, but also got a feel for, Usyk Saros like being so sound for the entirety of the series, right? Like game 6 didn't allow a goal until the last 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Game 5, no, not game 5. Game 4 game 5 he had 40 shutout minutes, but the Predators did win. Game 4 was again very sound until the entire team in front of him just imploded. And he had been fantastic that whole series, and it's just you feel bad for him because the team in front of him couldn't really make up any offense at any point.
Yeah, and I do have some sympathy for Luke Shen. Still have a soft spot for him with the time in the Canucks, and there was a nice little moment in the handshake line where he just took a minute to acknowledge what Quinn Hughes had been doing that series. So feel bad for him and Saros more than anyone. A little less bad for Philip Forsberg.
Shout out double agent Colton Sissons. We know where your roots are. We appreciate your service, bud.
No, Vancouver's very own.
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I'm happy we got that Nashville series out of the way. They really did have me sweating a lot for a first round wildcard matchup. A series that, Vancouver should have won. They did win. I'm glad that they did, and I'm glad it wasn't too much of a struggle. But it paints a picture now where I guess the way they played against Nashville to people who hadn't watched the series makes them look like underdogs. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to this media narrative that they're not going to do as well this series.
Yeah, I think it was 23 out of 24 writers at ESPN picked Edmonton to win the series, including our own color commentator, Ray Ferraro. Ryan S. Clark, shout out to you. Don't know who you are, but I like you now. Should probably move on to talking about that series. Zach, got anything to say for us?
Yeah, I just have a quick little message to those them there cowpoke down in Edmonton. You may have been able to pick apart that abomination that those weirdos in Tinseltown call hockey, but I would just like you to know that your two-man power trip of that iPad kid from Ontario and his rat-faced sausage-peddling German friend won't have the same success against the greatest team of hockey players since the 1970s Habs. It doesn't matter if we have Thatcher Demko in net, Casey DeSmith in net, or a dog walker from Delta in net. You won't be able to do anything. In fact, I'd tell you to bet the house, the car, the farm, and anything in between on the Vancouver Canucks in this series. But there's a chance Evander Kane's listening, so I will not do that. You did not get any betting advice from me. That's all I'm going to say there.
Thank you, Zach, for your preview. The series against Edmonton is going to be interesting. A lot of blows are going to be traded. If Edmonton's able to maintain a composed defense and a good performance from Stuart Skinner, I can see the series going 7 games easily. That's not saying I want it to, because if we lose in 7 to the Oilers, I will not leave my house for a week. I am very excited though, like just for the pure hockey product of this. It's just the rivalry banter of it puts that sort of like emotional stake into it. And I know a lot of people are now cheering for the Oilers because they want that Canadian team.
Yeah.
Just if we do lose this series, I will become a professional Dallas Stars / Colorado Avalanche fan for the remainder of the playoffs.
Yeah. I'm firmly against the concept of a Canada's team, so if Edmonton go through, I am immediately cheering for whoever else wins, but that's a discussion for another time. Speaking about the hockey, I'm really excited for this too. I think, like you said, the biggest chance the Canucks are going to have is, can the Oilers defense keep their composure, and can they play good hockey in front of Stuart Skinner, which at times is absolutely going to be a question mark. We saw that this season a lot. We saw even some of their defensemen, even against LA, did not look good. I don't think I saw Darnell Nurse do one good thing all series.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be honest, I like our chances a lot better than if we had the Kings. That may seem like a controversial opinion, but I think the way we play is much better matched up to play Edmonton than it would be against LA, and I really do think we have a legitimate shot to go do this.
Yeah.
I get that we're not considered the favorites, but I definitely see a way for the Canucks to take this in 6 or 7 games.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think our in-season record will show that. I think that we were a better team against the Oilers than we were against the Kings, especially with that late matchup that essentially would have determined the divisional chase. I think that game basically decided it.
Yeah.
To be able to win that game with Casey DeSmith should definitely boost the guy's confidence. I know McDavid and Draisaitl in particular were frustrated almost every game against us. And I think if they're able to manage that again, then if they can manage to frustrate and limit McDavid and Draisaitl, there is absolutely no reason why the Canucks can't win the series.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times I find the Oilers don't necessarily have the best mental approach to the game. They can, in big games, tend to frustrate themselves trying to do too much or trying to do this or trying to do that, and things start going wrong for them and they start making more mistakes and getting more and more frustrated. And we saw that a lot in their games against the Canucks this year, where they were going down early, they were giving up bad goals, giving up bad plays, and they were responding by getting frustrated and making more bad plays, and it just became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Frustrating the Oilers is going to be a really good way to do this. I think physicality is going to be a big part of this series, so if you can get a guy like Zadorov going out and doing what he did against Nashville and just laying the boom a lot of the time, I think that's going to be big for us. But yeah, this is going to be a fun series to watch. Effectively, what I want to say is, you can have Hyman, you can be flying, you can have a bunch of diamonds, Nucks in 6, baby, let's go.
Okay. Okay then. Do we have anything else that we want to talk about when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks and what to expect?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Has anyone heard from Elias Pettersson in the last couple weeks?
Well, the thing is, you can talk what you will about his goal scoring. I think he's been getting on the score sheet. As hard as it's been for the entire team, he has been getting assists this series. I understand that people are still going to complain about the fact that he's not actively putting goals in the net, but over the last few games, you can see I think he's starting to regain a little bit of that confidence, where he'll shoot when he gets his opportunities instead of trying to force a pass. He did keep the puck in the zone on that play that led to the Suter goal. So that is his contribution for that game. He scored 1 goal. He did more offensively than 9 of the 12 forwards on the team that day. So I'm not particularly worried. I think he'll get more chances in the series against Edmonton because, again, they are a weaker team defensively and their shot blocking and goaltending is not as sharp as Nashville. So I'm hoping we'll be able to see a big performance or two from him in those first couple games and then get the ball rolling from there.
Yeah, on the one hand, I do think he is due for something. He's had some chances that he hasn't been able to put away, and I think he's getting frustrated, which is creating more problems for him. But I will also say, for a guy who's supposed to be one of your star players, through 6 games, only having 3 points in the postseason, I'm pretty disappointed with that. I think part of it could be also that his line mates are struggling, but I think he needs to be able to drive his own line at this point, especially if we're going to be paying him one of the top players in the league next year. This is a guy you need to be getting a lot out of in these big situations, so we really need something to change soon.
Yeah, and I'm not worried. I think it will change if you give him more opportunities in front of the net, keep him on the power play. Don't try and punish him for how he's performing by bumping him. Just work with him, get him in the right headspace for this Edmonton series. Remember, this is a team that we beat, what was it, 8-1, 8-2 to start the season?
8-1, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that they've played differently, but just that they've been able to, change their ways since that. But just be able to instill a little bit of that mindset in the boys, especially Petey, and I think that they'll come into the series confident.
Yeah. And speaking of big players underperforming, should we talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yeah, so Elias Pettersson's, I'm rubbing my hands right now, and Alex is too. Elias Pettersson's playoff performances may have been lackluster, but at least he isn't Mitch Marner, because I do not think that there is a more consistent and predictable playoff underperformer in the NHL than Mitchell Marner.
Yeah, it's hard to say one, and another candidate for that role might actually be Austin Matthews. Like, of the Leafs core of four, I think Nylander is really the only one who consistently shows up in the playoffs. He missed the first few games of this series. Really, when the Leafs lose, Canada wins, so I'm quite happy to see that they managed to choke it again. Zach and I were at the Whitecaps game this weekend, and as Boston scored the overtime winner, chants started breaking out about the Leafs losing the game at an entirely separate sporting event, which you love to see. I'm just really happy they lost again. Don't love that it was to Boston. I'm immediately going to be cheering for the Panthers in the next round against Boston, but I'm very happy that Boston managed to get it done. Good to see the Leafs blow it again, and I hope they implode in the offseason.
Boston getting it done is just like, the only reason why I continue to cheer for Boston in these series against Toronto is because it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, Boston is, I probably hate the Bruins just as much as I hate the Leafs. It's just they'll always have that edge because it's always going to be funny when the Leafs lose to the Bruins again.
That's the thing.
Right? And who knows next year if this is going to be a matchup that we're going to have again. I still think Boston has a good team and a core that can compete for another couple years.
Yeah.
Toronto, I think, expect to see huge changes.
Yeah.
I think someone will be fired in the next couple days, whether it's Brendan Shanahan or Sheldon Keefe. Or Brad Treliving. I forgot Brad Treliving was the GM of the Leafs. Someone will be fired in the next couple days.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that Mitch Marner has played his last game as a Maple Leaf. And if not Mitch Marner, then probably John Tavares.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if the entirety of their core four is back next year, if nothing else. I'm really not sure what the next step would be for a team in their situation. It's going to be hard to move off some of those contracts. They're just in such a weird position that I cannot see things going well for them, and I feel very bad for them, most definitely, about all of this.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I won't even pretend to be feeling bad for Leafs fans. Seasons change. Spring turns to summer. Summer turns to fall, and once again, the Leafs cannot get over that damn wall.
All right, now that we've spoken about that, are there any other playoff series this round you guys are looking forward to watching?
I think Colorado and Dallas is going to be a hell of a series. I don't see any way that can't be great hockey. I mean, they're both two of the best teams in the NHL. I think Georgiev, after that implosion, seemed to settle down a lot in the Colorado net. I just think this is going to be a really good series. I'm a little worried watching it about what may come next for the Canucks, assuming we can get past Edmonton, but for now, I'm just going to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, enjoy the ride. That's all you really can do.
Yeah.
I think Dallas and Colorado is probably the best series of the three, in my opinion.
Yep.
Just in terms of the on-ice product it can yield the two teams and their quality.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see whoever comes out of this round, how they adapt to playing those teams, or if they adapt at all.
Yeah.
I do think that Dallas is still the best team in the league this year and the team to beat when it comes to winning the Cup. In the East Conference, I think Bruins, Panthers, the Bruins again have the opportunity to do something hilarious if you remember how their season ended last year. And the Rangers Hurricane series is also a good one.
That'll be a good one. Yeah.
Because Carolina had been my Cup pick for a couple of years before this, and they weren't my Cup pick this year. But again, they do have the new addition of Jake Gensel and again a very strong core.
If they can get past the Eastern Conference Final, then they definitely have a very good shot at it.
Sorry, do you want to just think about what you said there?
Well, yes, but it's every year they've managed to get swept in the Eastern Conference Finals. So if they can get past that boogeyman, then I think they're going to go and do it. I know that sounds like I'm Will Buxton or Michael Owen, but no, there is actually logic behind why I said that. So you know what I love about this Colorado and Dallas series?
Yeah.
The Golden Knights aren't playing in it.
Oh,
It's really the best.
thank
It's-
the
Cause
Lord.
for celebration.
The Golden LTIRs have lost. It's just great to see that after all this cap circumvention and all of this, just everything about the franchise, really, that they just don't get past the first round again.
Yep. It makes me happy knowing that they will not win the Stanley Cup this year.
Yeah.
Maybe they can join the Leafs on their Cancun trip. Who knows?
Well, Mark Stone was golfing while injured. He can do a little more now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure those core guys in Vegas are all really excited to just have their summers. Like, you know, I'm so happy with the results of that series, especially because they took it to 7-2.
Yeah.
And it was
Just give
like,
them that
oh,
little bit of
like,
hope.
Yeah, like, oh, they're, they have a chance here. I thought they were going to lose in 6. I thought they were going to get, like, steamrolled in their own barn when Dallas forced a game 6. But yeah, do we have anything else to talk about on the hockey front?
I mean, New York Islanders suck, I can tell you that for free, but not really much else to say.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, I guess that wraps up the Canucks-specific topics. So if you're like me and that's the only thing that you care about in the world right now, I guess thank you for listening. We'll see you next episode. Let's talk about soccer for those of you who have stayed and see how long you want to stay after that.
Hi, Mayan.
Champions League, I believe the return legs of the semifinals are this week.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
How, Alex, would you like to lay that out for everyone? What's going to be happening on tomorrow and Wednesday?
Okay. Keeping in mind, I forgot which game is on which day. 2 semifinals right now between Dortmund and PSG and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. I'm really looking forward to both of these ones. Dortmund in the first leg got a win over PSG. 1-goal lead going into the second leg. This one I'm really looking forward to. Dortmund is a team that I did not expect to get this far necessarily, but I'm really happy for, and I really would love to see manage to take it this year. I don't love their odds, but I think they can get to the final. I think they can get to the final over PSG, but I don't know how far they're going to go once they get there. Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, that's never not going to be a great game. Yes, Ryan?
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have breaking news that I think we should announce on the podcast.
Oh, no.
The Ottawa Senators have hired Travis Green as their next head coach.
No way.
Yes way. And per Darren Dredger, the Ottawa Senators will hire Travis Green as their next head coach.
Oh, no.
You probably didn't hear it here first, folks, but I just would like to say it happened while we were recording, so I'm sorry I have to interrupt the Champions League talk. But
okay, hold on.
We're going to need a little bit of a laugh break.
We need to quickly address this. Sens fans.
Why?
May God have mercy on your souls.
Sens fans, I am sorry for you.
I
truly
sorry.
am.
I am so sorry. Jesus Christ.
I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll be able to coach, like manage his way to, a slightly better or a slightly worse lottery pick next year.
I mean, okay, so let's just thinking about this from a more neutral perspective. The only problems I had with him during his time as the Canucks were his power play and his penalty kill, and the defense, and the forwards, and his line arrangement, and who he would put on the ice in certain situations.
Jason Magna.
That was Willie Desjardins, but...
Oh, no, that was Willie, yeah.
Yep. It didn't really improve much from Willie.
Name one Travis Green era Canuck.
Louis Eriksson.
Name another.
Jay Beagle.
Eric Goodbranson.
Brandon Sutter. We probably
Alex
shouldn't
Biega.
do this on air and should get back to doing the show.
I think we should go back to Champions League.
Anyway,
yeah.
Dortmund.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I was on Real and Bayern. The return leg of this, I believe, will be at the Bernabeu. It was a draw in the first leg, unless I've forgotten the last week of my life, which is honestly possible. This one I'm really looking forward to. Real and Bayern's always going to be a great game. You kind of have to assume that whoever wins that one is going to be the favorite to take it, but you never know in the Champions League. Der Klassiker in the final would be great to see, so plus, they have Alphonso Davies. I'm going to cheer for the Canadian, so I'm going to cheer for Bayern Munich in that one. Dortmund, I'm overall hoping to win it. Realistically, if they've gotten this far, you have to assume Real Madrid are going to win it. They don't lose Champions Leagues, but should be some good football. Anything from you guys?
Yeah, I think if Dortmund can pull the upset and Bayern can manage to get the game. I think if they get it to penalties, I think Bayern have a better chance at taking it. I think they have better attacking threats on pens. Yes, Alex?
They do also have Harry Kane, who would have to take a penalty, and we know how that normally goes.
I think in the
I've just
shootout
traumatized the two
scenario,
England
it's
fans.
different. Yeah. I think in the shootout scenario, it's different than during the game. But I think Bayern, if they can manage to keep it close until the end, I think they'll pull through and win this one. An early goal from Real Madrid, though, I think would just finish them. I don't see how you can come back from that.
It's Real Madrid and Ancelotti in the Champions League. You never want to bet against them, I think.
Yeah.
There's a reason he has the most Champions Leagues of any manager.
Mm-hmm. And as for the Dortmund PSG game, I do think PSG are the better team.
Yeah.
But again, Dortmund have a lead going into this fixture, correct?
They do have, I believe, a 1-goal advantage.
Yeah, so I do believe that they have a chance at, either taking this to extra time or winning the fixture. But It just, I do think the favorites in this are a PSG Real Madrid final, which I don't think many neutrals want. I think we'd all much rather a Der Klassiker final.
Or even just one side of Der Klassiker making it, so there's a more obvious team to cheer for, but yeah, I'm with you here. I'm hoping we get the all-German final. I'd love to see Marco Reus win 1-2 with Dortmund. I believe this has been confirmed to be his last year at the club. He's Dortmund legend. I don't necessarily love how they're getting rid of him, but that's a topic for another time. Just get the man his title. He's earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should move on now to the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Why?
Why? This is it's an interesting topic to talk about because it feels like every game that they're either winning the league or the sky is falling. And when it comes to this past game, I don't think it's either of those. I think it's just sort of that same bland feeling like when you take a Dorito out of a bag and it's really stale, but you can't spit it out and overreact. You have to sit there and chew it all the way and swallow it, as painful as it is. So for those of you who don't know, 30,000 people were in attendance at BC Place. The upper bowl was open, which is something that they don't normally do for Whitecaps games. And it was the biggest crowd in Whitecaps MLS era history.
I believe so.
Yeah.
That record will stand for all of 2 weeks, but yeah.
Yeah, well, until he who shall not be named plays us. Yeah. But how did the Whitecaps respond to the occasion of having 32,000 people in attendance for their 50th anniversary match? They, drumroll please, did not know how to play offense and drew 0-0 in a game they should have won.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah, this game actually reminded me a lot of some of the Canucks Preds games in that the Whitecaps had very little ability to actually get anything through to the goal. Brad Stuver was hardly tested at all by the Whitecaps, and the few tests he got really weren't. Apart from, I think, one chance, none of them really seemed all that threatening. Really, the best way I can describe this game, it was certainly 90 minutes of football, and there was definitely a refereeing performance.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't really blame the referee for the goal that was called back because there was...
Yeah, no, that one...
Foul? Was it foul or
I don't
offside?
even remember, but no, it was that. They got the call right on that one, I feel. It's unfortunate, but yeah, they did.
Yeah, they got the call right. Again, I think the no penalty call, they got right.
That one I think was a 50-50 call, but I'm not going to necessarily argue it. I think if you call that one either way, you're going to have one fan base pissed off at you.
Yeah. And I do think I can't blame the refs in that game when they play like that.
I think
it's just...
I'm not necessarily going to blame the refs. The Whitecaps did that to themselves, but I would say also the refereeing was not great. There were a few moments where a card probably should have been brought out and it wasn't, or the amount of stoppage time that got added to the second half felt incredibly short. I think the ball was in play for exactly 30 seconds of stoppage time during the second half. Somebody timed it behind me. That was just MLS refereeing is something I've complained about for a long time. It's really not encouraging to see where this is going. But again, again, I just want to make it clear, I'm not blaming the refs. I'm not saying the refs are the reason the Whitecaps drew, sorry. The Whitecaps are the reason that the Whitecaps drew this game, but, like, MLS refereeing frustrates me to no end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think, again, the refs were not at fault for this game. I just don't think that the Whitecaps know how to play under any sort of occasion.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, if it's playoffs, if it's Champions League, if it's, even a game like this where it's just a regular season game where there are a lot of people there.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating to see the difference between when they play in front of, a half full lower bowl at BC Place versus a full lower bowl and people in the upper bowl, which is something that has happened like once or twice in the past couple of years.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what causes this, but there's two things that I'm concerned about because of it. Yeah. One is, in 2 weeks, we're going to play in front of what is going to be the biggest crowd in Whitecaps history when Inter Miami come to town, and we have the squad of Barcelona legends playing against the Whitecaps. That's going to be, especially with the performance Miami put up 2 days ago, I think it was now, where they, I believe, beat New York Red Bulls 6-1. I'm concerned about how that's going to go, but also thinking more big picture, like, the Caps are good this year. The Caps should probably be a playoff team quite comfortably and probably have home field advantage. If a team can't play at home in a regular season game on a big occasion, what's going to happen when the playoffs come around and we have to win these big games? Like, there needs to be a way to fix this. This can't function.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I offer the best insight into how to fix it, so that might be a conversation for the next Mayan Zilberstein episode.
Yeah, that might be. We're not the soccer guys, but yeah.
Assuming the Caps, I don't see a result for them that's pretty at all for this game against Miami. Even though it's 2 weeks down the line, I think we'll talk more about it with Mayan. Yeah. But I don't see any result for that going well. And it'll be interesting to see what he thinks, or what people who are more knowledgeable on the team think when it comes to how they're going to overcome playing so poorly under pressure, even if that pressure is just home support.
Yeah, no, I would be interested to hear what Mayan has to hear on this. We'll get his opinion in a couple weeks' time, or maybe even sooner. Yeah, as you said, like, we're not the guys who can diagnose what's going on here, but it's certainly looking concerning for the Whitecaps' long-term future if we can't play in front of a home crowd like that.
Yeah. And I think we've got... Is that all we want to talk about when it comes to the Whitecaps?
More or less. There's, like, an error on the program they gave out, but I don't really want to go into that because I'll rant a little too much about it, and it's kind of irrelevant, but whatever. Yeah, we'll move on to... Should we move on to the better football?
Yeah, let's move on to the better football.
All right, the NFL draft.
Drake May, baby. Drake May.
Feeling? How you feeling about
the
Pat's draft?
The whole world is talking about Drake May, the next Tom Brady. So the NFL draft was, 2 weeks ago now? A week ago?
Week and a half.
Something like that. And I was not watching. I was helping a friend move. But at the time of the draft, I got a call from none other than Alexander Rickman to inform me that my New England Patriots had drafted Drake May, quarterback from North Carolina. This was met promptly... Sorry?
I'd just like to say, when he picked up the phone, I believe he said something along the lines of, "It's J.J. McCarthy, isn't it?"
Yeah, I was fairly confident that was the route that we were going, because Patriots and Michigan quarterback, what could possibly go wrong? The last time we did that, he was a 6th-round pick who had an awful combine and turned out to become the greatest player of all time. So, when I got this call from Alex informing me that we had drafted Drake May, I responded promptly with a large scream. Because I knew it was coming, it was inevitable, and yet I could do nothing to prevent it except sit and scream. Although, seeing as it's been a little bit of time since the draft, I've calmed down mostly, and I'm optimistic. I'm hoping that Drake May will be what the Patriots see, like what they see as his final product and what I saw are very different, and I'm hoping that they are going to be the ones who are right, and I am going to look like an ass. But in the event that that doesn't happen, this would be, again, another one of the more predictable draft busts in NFL history. Josh Rosen style disappointment.
Zach Wilson style.
Zach Wilson style. Johnny Manziel style.
Yep. I'm just wondering,
Hamilton
what
Tiger
about
Cats legend.
beyond Drake May? Anything else you want to talk about from the Patriots draft? Anyone worth mentioning?
I mean, Alex has talked a lot about Jalen Polk. I'm quite excited about him, just only because of what Alex has said about him.
Yeah.
I didn't really watch too much college football this year up until the draft. It was like I started to monitor players like that the Patriots were looking at drafting, and one of the first guys I didn't want was Drake May. One of the first guys I could recognize that I did not want, but I don't know. I would have been happier with a Marvin Harrison Jr. pick, even though Bailey Zappi would have been likely the quarterback.
Or Brissett.
Or Brissett. I mean, we did draft another quarterback this year in like the 6th round, but
Yeah.
I think I would have been happier with a 2nd round or a 3rd round quarterback and Marvin Harrison Jr. in the 1st round.
Yeah. No, I watched quite a bit of college ball last year, partially because the Seahawks were frustrating me to no end, but that's again a conversation for another day. Yeah, Polk, Odunze, and McMillan are all guys who I really believe in from that Washington team. Odunze going to the Bears, I think, is going to be a very good pick. I think that's going to age well. Caleb, I think, is a really good quarterback for him. But yeah, Polk is a guy you should get excited about. I think that could be a really high value pick. Speaking of Washington players at the draft, I would like to speak about this Michael Penix selection.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, it had to.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Penix fan. My problem with this pick is not where it happened. I think Penix absolutely is a good enough player to justify being picked in the top 10. Some people will disagree with that still, but whatever. Atlanta makes absolutely zero sense for any of this, given like the money and term they've just committed to Kirk Cousins, and with Penix in particular, his age, he's a little older than other guys, so if he has to sit on the bench for a few years to wait for Cousins, he might be making his NFL debut at like 27 years old, which, that's not going to be good for anyone. So I'm hoping that there is a plan that I'm just not seeing here from the Falcons that actually does make sense, but that's such a weird one to me.
Yeah.
It also sucks for Penix to be in this position because like he's just had one of the biggest moments of his life. He's just been drafted to the NFL and his dream is coming true. And the only reaction he's been getting online is people flaming the pick and saying how bad it is. Like, you got to feel bad for him here. He deserves...
Well, I don't think they're talking about how bad the pick is because of that.
Of course it's not because of him.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's victim of circumstance, really. Like, he ended up in a weird spot, and now this is what the reaction is.
I mean, I can't imagine he was happy either. I'm sure he was optimistic that he would have been drafted to a team that saw him as a day one starter.
Yeah,
and then
especially, again, given his age.
Yeah, he ends up on the Falcons where their quarterback situation is now completely up in the air because you don't draft a top 10 quarterback with the intention of benching him.
Not for multiple years, at least.
If you're drafting a player in that top 10, you're expecting them to be on the field for the first snap of the season.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what route they're going with Cousins and Penix, unless they know something about one of them that we don't.
Yeah. I was actually saying at the time of the pick that I think Odunze would have made a lot of sense there. Like, give Cousins some weapons on offense. Like, go to a Washington player would have made a ton of sense, just not that Washington player.
Yeah, and it's like you need a backup quarterback for Cousins. You draft him later in the draft, right?
Yeah, like I don't know, the guy the Patriots picked in the 6th round. What's his name? Get him.
I don't know what his name is.
That was how Cousins got drafted. Cousins was a second quarterback picked in a draft after Washington had already picked RG3.
Yeah.
So also just quickly want to touch on the Seahawks draft. I won't go deep into this, but just love the Byron Murphy pick so much.
Mm-hmm.
This guy I'm really high on. I don't think he's going to be as good as the guy I'm about to compare him to, which is essential to say, but the way he plays reminds me a lot of Aaron Donald. Like, I'm not going to declare anyone would be as good as Aaron Donald. I'm of the belief that Donald is the best defensive player in NFL history. But this guy's going to be a problem for NFC West offensive lines, and I love that he's a Seahawk now.
All right. Do we have anything else to talk about?
I will mention one thing very briefly because I know you don't watch F1, but I just need to acknowledge that my boy Lando Norris is now a race winner. Just so happy to watch that. He deserves this so much after so many close calls. So congrats, Lando. Great race. Zach, anything you want to say? I know you're another F1 guy.
But
no, it's just nice to see it finally go over the hump. I was half expecting him to fail scrutineering, though. Just because that would be peak Lando Norris.
Yeah, part of me, even when we got to like 2 or 3 laps left and he had like that 6-second gap on Max, you still have to feel like Max has a chance, even though nobody else would. But great to see him get it done.
Yeah, and I'm not an F1 fan, but I'm going to speak to, I think that when Max Verstappen loses, the whole world wins. So it's just nice to see someone else win. And that's not even a dig at Verstappen. It's just the fact that one of the main reasons why I can't get into F1 is because he wins, like, literally every race.
Yeah.
Like, it's more exciting to see who finishes in second than who finishes in first.
And Lando's just such a likable guy, too, so...
Yeah, I guess I don't know anything about Lando Norris.
You don't know, but, like, take my word for it.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Lando Norris, great guy, friend of the Chroncast.
And ladies and gentlemen, it is time for everyone's favorite segment, the Zach Mason Combat Corner. Zach, you ready to go?
I am ready.
All right, big fight coming up between Vasyl Lomachenko and George Kambosos. What you got for us?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Vasyl Lomachenko is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, the fastest 3-weight world champion in boxing, and he should have I believe he should have beat Devin Haney to win the undisputed lightweight title back in May.
Mm-hmm.
And he, in his first fight since then, is facing George Kambosos, who is a former unified lightweight champion, having beat Teofimo Lopez in a massive upset in November of 2021. He then lost 2 straight fights to Haney to unify the division, and in my opinion, should have lost his last fight to Maxi Hughes as well, because he didn't look very impressive, and I remember Maxi Hughes seeming to land more, but I could totally be wrong there. But yeah, this definitely feels like it's Lomachenko's last chance to unify the lightweight titles, which is a weird sentence to say, because given his size and how outweighed he seems to be by a lot of the opponents in the weight class, I don't even know if he should be at 130, let alone 135. Like, if you see him compared to Shakur Stevenson, or even when he fought Jermaine Ortiz in October, after he beat him, Devin Haney came into the ring, and that's how they set up their fight.
Yeah.
Lomachenko literally was shocked that Devin Haney makes lightweight. I think he genuinely called him a heavyweight when they were in the ring together. But yeah, I'm quite favoring Lomachenko here, because Kambosos never really had the most brilliant technical ability. He caught one hell of a lightning in a bottle type opportunity when Teofimo Lopez, who is, to put it nicely, probably one of the most hot and cold fighters in the sport, he caught him on the coldest of cold nights and probably got a good $7 million out of it. So yeah, I'm going to favor Lomachenko. I don't know if he'll stop him, but I favor him quite comfortably, unless he's suddenly gotten totally old overnight.
Anything else about that fight, or should we move on?
Just move on.
Okay, so massive fight coming up, not only in terms of this fight itself, but of the fighters. Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk for undisputed heavyweight.
Yep, first time in 25 years that the undisputed heavyweight title will be contested.
And just for anyone wondering, who was the last man to hold the title?
Last man to hold it was Lennox Lewis, when he beat Evander Holyfield by decision in 1999.
Yes, so sorry, as you were.
Yeah, so Tyson Fury, 2-time heavyweight champion, current WBC heavyweight champ. His last fight was in October of last year against former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, which did not go terribly well for him. He seemed to look very flat. He got dropped, and it didn't inspire much confidence, despite the arguments that he didn't take that fight terribly seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's like 6'9", 250 to 270, depending on the fight. Will weigh in. He's facing Oleksandr Usyk, the former unified cruiserweight champion, current unified heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, 21-0. The only thing I really feel like that's been holding Usyk back is the fact that he's not a completely natural super heavyweight. Like in any other era before about 2015, he'd just be maybe a slightly smaller heavyweight. Yeah. But when everyone he's fighting is like 6'5", 245 pounds, that size does catch up to him, especially since he's not really a power puncher. Like the Ukrainian boxing style, it doesn't really allow you to sit down in your punch as much just because of the constant change of angles and darting in and out and feints. So he's 21-0 with 14 knockouts, but they're not one punch starchings. They're very much round 11, round 12, pure accumulation.
Like wear the guy down.
Yeah. And like he is an incredible gas tank. I believe it was his fight against Murat Gassiev for the World Boxing Super Series final. He threw 950 punches as a cruiserweight in 12 rounds.
Jeez.
So he can go.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. And I will slightly favor Usyk just because Furies always seem to struggle against smaller guys. He's even admitted it himself. Like Steve Cunningham flatlined him back in 2013. That was like the big overhand right. He struggled a bit against Otto Wallin, who opened up the cut. And Otto Wallin's a slightly less educated southpaw, but still very polished and world level. And, the Ngannou fight isn't really the best. In a sport where you're only as good as your last fight, having the Francis Ngannou fight be your last fight will not inspire confidence in anyone.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if his last few opponents, in terms of both quality and skill, have been helping Fury much. Because they've all been like the sort of the right in front of you type with, to put it nicely, a lack of boxing skill compared to Usyk. Like his last several fights have been Francis Ngannou, Derek Chisora, Dillian White, and Deontay Wilder. None of those guys are going to win a pure boxing match against anyone. Like Wilder is almost infamous for how lacking in technique he is. Yeah. And Derek Chisora is like almost the quintessential gatekeeping brawler. Like broke the nose once, can't break it again. Just come in and swarm.
Yeah.
So I don't think that warms him up for Usyk very well. And also that the mauling style he seemed to have had since he came back from his mental health episodes, I question how well that'll work against Usyk, because Usyk in an ideal world will not be there to be leaned on and clinched. And I feel like also now that he knows to expect the mauling and the clinching, that's where the fight's going to come down to, is how well does that clinching hold up? Because if Usyk can slip under and rip away at the body, he's probably going to have a pretty easy time.
Yeah. No, it should be a great fight. And just one more topic before we move on from this. In the wake of Ryan Garcia's win against Devin Haney, there's been some controversy over Ryan Garcia's drug test results. Anything to say about this?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see where it happens, because, so for those who don't know, he tested positive for, I believe it was Osterine, which is like not produced in the body at all, and was like, I don't think the amounts have come out yet, so I don't know if it was like tainted supplement or anything, and a metabolite for nandrolone, which is also a performance enhancing drug.
Yes.
So he's claiming it's all come from tainted supplements, but the problem is that he has to be able to show proof, and with how erratic and seemingly unserious he's been taking it in public, I don't know how much proof he's going to get, and there is genuinely a world where I see him showing up in front of a state athletic commission and just claiming it was a conspiracy by the deep state, which will not help his case at all. Like, he's expecting to, if we assume that this is true, he's expecting to go in front of a group attached to the people conspiring against him and win the argument by claiming they're conspiring against him.
Yeah.
Is that doesn't
seem like a recipe for success.
Yeah, I've definitely heard wiser plans than that.
Well, going to be interesting to follow that. Zach, we thank you for this, and let's move on in the show.
That being said, I think we've covered all the bases. So if you've gotten to this point, again, I'm sorry. Why? And also, hi, Alex's mom. So we're going to wrap this up. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Zach, anything to say?
No, Canucks in 6. Just remember that. Canucks in 6. If you take nothing away from this podcast, it's Canucks in 6.
Canucks in 6, baby. Let's go.
Canucks in 6.